So in one of my recent videos, I went over a glitch in the First Descendant that will allow you to reset certain timed activities to be able to farm them much more quickly and much more efficiently. But in that first video, the method was a little bit inconsistent. Sometimes it would reset the instance of that zone you're in, sometimes it wouldn't. So it would just take a lot more time and you'd be spending more time trying to reset the zone. But in this video, I want to go over an updated method that will make this glitch much more consistent, allowing you to be able to farm certain things much more quickly. You can also find my creator code in the description if you plan on purchasing anything in the First Descendant. I'm not recommending you to buy anything or not to buy anything, but if you already plan on doing that, use my creator code. It'll help out the channel. Now, the main reason to use this glitch is to be able to reset the outpost activities, which are timed missions you can find in every region of the game. There'll usually be 2 of them in separate zones of every region, and in every different region, these outposts will also be dropping different materials. And usually the materials that drop from these outposts are more rare materials that are used in much more sought after crafting recipes. For instance, the one I went over in my first video is to craft the crystallization catalyst, you need something called a macromolecule biogel, and you need 22 of these to craft the crystallization catalyst, which in my opinion is one of, if not the most valuable items in the game. And this biogel you're looking for is farmed from the outpost missions in the Echo Swamp region. So we're going to continue to use this as an example. So you have the resource or the item you want to go farm from outposts. So you make your way to Echo Swamp, you make your way to one of the outposts, and you complete that outpost. But once you complete an outpost, it's now on a 5-minute cooldown, meaning you can't really farm these outposts super quickly. A 5-minute timer between each run is going to be very inefficient, but that's where the glitch comes in. And if you look at any of the zones in a region, you'll notice that there is this grayed out area in between all of the zones. And that's pretty much the load area to travel between all of the different zones. And that's the element of these zones we're going to be using to reset them. So what you're going to do after you complete that outpost is you're just going to fast travel to another fast travel point in any of the other zones. Make sure it's a different zone. And basically what you're doing here is when you fast travel to a point in a different zone, it's going to take you to a loading screen and then load you into the new zone. And what's going to happen most of the time is that when you fast travel back to that first zone you were in where you completed the outpost, is that now you'll be put in a new instance of that zone. So what you're searching for is to be put in a new instance where the outpost is up. Now that doesn't always happen because it'll constantly be trying to put you in a zone with other players, meaning other players could also be there completing the outpost, meaning you could be put into a new instance where the outpost is already completed as well. But most of the time when you look at the outpost and the timer on it, it won't line up with the outpost you completed. So the timer will be different, whether that be because the outpost is currently up and you're able to go complete it again, or whether that be just because it's a different timer. And as I went over in that last video, the most efficient way to do this would be to find both of the outposts in that overarching region. So in Echo Swamp, you would have one in the Derelict Covert and you would have one in the Muskeg Swamp. So what you would do is you would go to, say, the Derelict Covert, you would fast travel there, you would go complete that outpost if it's up, then you would fast travel down to the Muskeg Swamp, you would look to see if that outpost was up. If it was up, you would go complete it, then you would fast travel back to the Derelict Covert, and you would just fast travel back and forth to those 2 different zones. And once you got to an instance where the outpost was up, you would go complete it, then just continue to fast travel back and forth. And like mentioned, this wouldn't always put you in an instance where the outpost was up, but it would usually put you in a new instance, which overall would allow you to farm these much more quickly. But there is another way to do this even more consistently. So if you go and click on any region in the game, for instance, Echo Swamp, you'll see at the top left, right next to the name of that region, there will be a box that normally says public. This means that any of the zones you enter in this region, it will try to put you in an instance with more players. It'll randomly put you into instances. There'll be random players around just doing random activities. But you can click that box that says public and change it to a private instance of that whole region. Now you can't be in the region when you change this, so either go back to Albion or go to a different region. And once you click that box, box, it'll change it to private. So that's what you're going to do to make this glitch more consistent. You're going to turn the region you're farming in into a private instance. Now, what this is going to do is remove a lot of the inconsistency with the instancing system in the game, because normally when you're in a public instance, the game wants to instance you with more players. So let's say you join an instance of Echo Swamp and there's 3 other players there, but then you teleport somewhere else, teleport back to try to get put into a new instance. The instance you were already in still only has 3 players. The game isn't going to want to put you into a new instance because it wants to keep you with other players. It wants to try to give you the best experience by putting you in populated areas. And you could keep fast traveling back and forth as much as you want, but if no one else joined that instance, it'll keep wanting to put you back into the same instance with those same 3 players, meaning you're not resetting that instance and getting a new outpost. But if you change it to private, it will pretty much always put you in a new instance because it doesn't have to worry about trying to place you with other players. So it's going to be much more consistent in allowing you to just reset the instance you're in and get a new outpost up to be able to go complete it and farm them much more quickly. Now, even though you're in a private instance, the game still works a little bit weird in that the timer of the outpost is still somehow based on public instances, because what can happen sometimes is, let's say you go to the derelict covert, you complete the outpost there, then you teleport down to Muskeg Swamp and you teleport back to the derelict covert. When you have it set to private, it will put you in a new instance, but that new instance is still based on a public instance for some reason. So it will put you in a new instance. That outpost won't always be up. It'll just be a new random instance, and that outpost could still be on a cooldown because for some reason it's tying those timers together. So players in a public instance would have completed that outpost. It would put you in a private instance that still has its timer tied to a public version. So all of this is just to say that even though you're getting in a new instance, it doesn't mean that the outpost is always going to be up. But using this glitch in private instances will allow it to be much more consistent in putting you in new instances, just allowing you to farm these outposts much more quickly. And this glitch can be used on other things such as vaults, but you obviously need keys for those and they're not really infinitely farmable like outposts are. So even though you can speed up using all your keys a little bit, this is still primarily going to be used for outposts. So just to go back over everything in a much more simple way, you're going to start the game, you're going to be put in Albion, whatever zone you want to go farm outposts in, you're going to go click on that region and you're going to go to the top left next to the name. You're going to click on the box that says public. That's going to turn that region into a private region, so you'll never see any other players. You're going to teleport into the zone with the outpost you want to go complete. You go complete that outpost, then you teleport to the other zone in that region that has another outpost. Teleport there. If that outpost is up, go complete it, then teleport back to the first zone you went in and check if the first outpost you completed is now reset. If it is reset, go complete it, rinse and repeat. If it isn't reset, you're just going to teleport back to the second zone with the second outpost and see if that one's up. And you're just going to keep doing that until you get an outpost that's up, and rinse and repeat. It's going to be much more consistent doing it in private lobbies, and you're going to be able to farm the rare resources from these outposts extremely quickly compared to what you would normally be able to do. But that's all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.